Of Sukkot. I'll tell you that I would love to go with you through the laws of Lulav and Etog, but it's not fair.
The laws of what?
Lulav and Etog.
Oh.
It's not fair.
Wait, if it's on
Very
you, then he
complex.
can't do us, right?
Part of
No.
Sukkot?
No, it's
Either
more
way.
They're very
Whereas
complex.
you
get-
Very
Sukkot
complex,
is
very
Middleton.
difficult to learn.
I'll tell you, not because it's difficult, because it's not fair. Because you don't have a choice.
Not fair.
We only get what we get here,
Oh.
in the shul. So you can't really choose. So what's the point of me teaching if...
In Israel, it's a totally different experience.
Israel's a different experience. In Israel, it's worth it, because in Israel, we're able to go and get our own etrog and hadassim here and aravot there and lavim everywhere, and you get to choose really the best of the best. Now there are people who exaggerate. The whole magnifying glass thing is absurd. It's like the people who check bugs under a magnifying glass. The Torah has never demanded from a person to do anything with a magnifying glass. Actually, my rabbi says that somebody who takes a magnifying glass to go check etrogim is a rasha, because he causes the person to lose business. Because someone comes to the magnifying glass and they pick up a perfect etrog. They look at it and magnify. Oh no, it's not for me. And
Blam.
that guy doesn't know anything about etrogim, so he just puts it on the table, and the next guy who comes in doesn't want to buy it,
Thinks that that's
even though it's a perfectly good etrog. And today it's become a whole parade of who can outdo the other one and the prices. And maybe it's good that we have sets, but on the other hand, we lose out from the ability to have nehuda, the best level etrog we could possibly get. Okay, it's the cost of living in California. But, so I'm going to skip most of the halachot of lulav and etrog. Aside from a few things you should know, you are allowed to put your lulav and your aravot and your hadassim in water on Sukkot and on Shabbat, but you don't touch them on Shabbat. But you're allowed to put them in water. The whole prohibition of putting plants in water only applies to plants which
Benefit.
would continue growing. Yeah. Continue growing. We don't believe that lavim or hadassim or most plants that are cut are in a stage of dying, not growing, and prolonging their life, at least according to Sfaradim, is allowed. This is not true for flowers. Someone who brings you flowers and some of the flowers are closed, so when you put them in water, they inevitably open up later on throughout the week.
But if you put them in water before Yom Tov.
Oh, before, according to everybody, I'm talking about on Yom Tov.
But can you take it out of water if it does then?
What?
A flower.
Why would you have to take the flowers out of the water?
Let's say, I never do, but a flowering plant you can't remove from the water because you're removing its life source, right? Because it will stop it from growing.
More because they're muktzah. Because you don't really have a purpose for it on.
But you can move a vase of flowers on Yom Tov.
If you
not
need
on
to.
Shabbat.
If you need to. On both.
Even on Shabbat, you can move it.
If you need to.
Some people get in the habit of like giving gifts on Yom Tov, saying like, "Oh, my purpose, I'm carrying things around like from this person's house to that person's house." You can carry food, but you shouldn't really be carrying like a bottle of wine. Well, a bottle of wine, I guess, is different.
Better to do all of that before.
Yeah.
What about?
Before Chag.
But you could take hadassim out of water to use on
And then
Yom
put
Tov?
them back in. For
And then
example,
put 'em
these on
back in.
Shabbat. In Yerushalayim, we do this every week. We put our dazzle in water, we take them out, we put them back in. We take them out, we put them back in.
On Shabbat?
Absolutely.
So you're not like interrupting its...
No, because
Life
we don't
force.
believe hadassim continue living in water.
Okay. But
They're
how
just...
then how are they being preserved?
They're being preserved, but not blossoming more than they already are. I mean, no new hadassim are growing while they're in the water.
Because it's the Jews don't believe it.
Yeah, but I planted the ground.
It might-
New leaves came out.
Also,
It might have a chance of surviving. Yeah. So,
So-
that's right. You had a different experience, right? So, yours grew.
that's one halakha. The second halakha you should know, 11 etrog should be tied together. They should not be just floating around on their own. Not the etrog. The love and the haravot, the hadassim should be bound together. The original Sephardic custom is not to use this little, I don't know what it's called. Like
Those rings.
those holders.
They
The
always
rings.
come
We use
off.
the rings, not the holders. But there's nothing wrong with using the holder. If it's more convenient for you, go for it. Sephardim do have a custom to decorate our lulav and etrog with all kinds of ribbons and silver and gold and all things, whatever we have to decorate, the more the merrier. As it says in the Torah, Zeh Eli v'anveu. This is my God, and I will glorify Him. I'll make Him more beautiful. And there's really an idea to be mehader, to find, to make it as beautiful as it possibly could.
Is it l'kol mitzvah?
Almost. But there are, almost. There's 2 mitzvot in the Torah that I know of that use the word hadar. So no pri etz hadar in the Torah, and what else? V'hadarta pnei zaken. You should honor the face of one who is elderly. Hadar. There's a famous story about one of the big Ashkenazi rabbis, how he chose to go to an old age home instead of buying an etog. Because he felt that it was a year-long mitzvah versus a once-in-a-while mitzvah, and the year-long mitzvah takes precedence. But let's talk about a few things that I think are important to share here about Daled Minim. You know what the Satan is?
The adversary.
The accuser.
The simple definition of the Satan, we find in the Torah the word lesotno, to hold a person back. There's no man with horns that's chasing us in red costumes. Like it's not a Satan in Judaism. Satan is anything that's going to hold us back from doing a mitzvah properly. There are many such things that have come up, not just outside of our tradition, affecting our tradition, but actually inside of our tradition, ironically. Things that have been put into play, possibly for good motives, but have destroyed much of what is good or not good in our own personal observance. I'll give you an example. What is the most important country in the whole world? Eretz Israel. Anybody in disagreement?
Yes.
Is there any Torah source that would argue that there's a country that's better than Eretz Israel? When I say better, what do I mean? Holier?
More blessed.
They said
The
the
greater
beauty of
mission.
Jerusalem is worth.
Israel is
1,000
more
times what it
beautiful
does.
than the rest of the world?
Also more blessed.
Israel is more blessed. Israel is more holy. Israel is more everything. Everything you could possibly find good somewhere else. Our Rabbi say Israel has more. That's a fundamental principle in our religion. When you eat fruits from Israel, you make a different bracha. When you eat wheat from Israel, you make a different bracha. When you eat grapes from Israel, you make a different bracha than you normally make.
So you're talking about etrogim from Israel versus Italy.
Rav Kook has a book called Pri Etz Hadar, in which he has to spend a whole volume proving to people that the etrogim that come from Israel are better than etrogim that come from anywhere else.
Don't they use a quote from the rabbis about buying etrogim from Italy?
Right, so here's what we're going to do right now. I will tell you, there are two problems when it comes to etrogim. Finding an etrog that's really an etrog, meaning there are things that look like etrogim but they're not. There are such fruits that come from China, such fruits that come from India. They look like etrogim but they're not really etrogim. How you know they're not? Okay, it's an interesting discussion among the poskim. And two, there are many etrogim in the world that you can buy, but the etrog is a very weak tree. And the etrog, therefore, almost always is grafted with another citrus tree in order to make the etrog tree stronger. Which means they'll take a branch of the etrog and grow it onto the lemon tree, whatever, however they do grafting. I'm not a farmer. And those etrogim are psulim. Are psulim. How do you know if one's grafted or not?
It's hard to tell.
It's pretty hard to tell.
When I lived in Los Angeles, my landlord had an etrog grafted onto a lemon tree. It was like so abundant. It's like
Really?
dropping off huge, beautiful, big etrogim that they
Wow.
were pasul.
Right, so you can't use them.
Right?
You can't use them. And here's the thing. Most of the simanim, the signs that our rabbis give us how to determine, were based on their personal experiences. Like a rabbi in this country felt that whatever he felt, some say they were sour, some say it looked like this, and whatever it was, those are not absolute rules. Because you can find an etrog that's like this, that's really that's kosher or not kosher, or so on and so forth. And therefore, really, the only way we know if something's kosher or not is if we have a tradition that these etrogim were planted by people who planted them from etrogim, who planted them etrogim were always kosher. Perhaps the most kosher etrogim in the whole world come from Morocco. The etrogim from Morocco are considered, even by the Iraqis who hate the Moroccans, such as Chacham Ovadia and his camp, to be the most kosher etrogim that exists in the world. There's actually a black market in Israel for etrogim that come from Morocco, because Israel doesn't do business with Morocco officially, and therefore there's like a little market that goes underneath.
Go on with it.
Now,
Millions.
additionally to that, the reason why the Moroccan etrogim are almost 100% kosher are for a very simple reason. Do you know what the reason is?
The Islamic people, they're hated or hate the.
No, so why would they be so kosher?
Well, they hate it. They're like they leave the tree alone or something.
You want to know? It's very simple.
They also look at
Trace them back 1,000
The people there are very simple people.
They don't know what
You're not
grafting
talking
is.
about high tech farming. You're not talking
Right,
about any.
good point.
They're very simple. Day by day
Food is
kind of
food.
farmers.
Right.
And
Soil
so
is still real.
their etogim, it's maybe to a fault in their like business dealings, but to us it's a good thing because they don't do these kind of things. They don't do these kind of things, and therefore those etogim are considered to be among the most kosher etogim in the world.
במרוקו אין חשש לחלב נוכרי בגלל שהם לא הולכים לערבב חלב.
Okay, it's true. It's a different topic, but it's a similar idea.
Etrogs from seeds is a very difficult thing. I know because I have a bunch.
So on
Anytime when he used to live here, had a tree out in front of his house here. on the street.
On top of this, most or many of the etogim that grow in Israel, there are today something better. People who took seeds from the etogim that came from Morocco and planted them in Israel. So you have Israeli etogim that are from these seeds from Morocco. Those are mehudarim. Those are good etogim.
I should get some of the seeds. Where can I get
Does
some
it
of the
matter
seeds?
about the color of the etrog itself? Or am I
Sure.
jumping the gun in terms? Because everything that came was green this year, which means it wasn't quite ripe.
It's better if it's green that's more similar to yellow. A lighter shade of green is better than a darker shade of green. And there's a trick that if you put an etrog with apples in a bag,
Oh, yes?
the etrog will turn yellow.
Should we risk doing that?
Nothing could happen to your etrog.
Okay.
But you should Google it online to see how you do it. But it's like a famous trick people have.
That sounds so big.
You're even allowed to do it on Yom Tov because it's not considered coloring the etrog. It's an interesting question.
It's a natural.
Right.
You're just gassing it with ethylene gas.
So
Good point.
there has been fabricated some kind of midrash. I don't know if it's a midrash. I don't know if it's a Hasidic teaching. They themselves don't know where it comes from. That Moshe Rabbeinu got his etrog from a valley in Italy called Calabria.
How did he get it?
Don't ask. I don't know. A little bluebird brought him an etrog. Who knows?
Camel.
And this is found in many writings of Hasidic rabbis, most predominantly the first Lubavitcher Rebbe. Also other rabbis, such as the Khatam Sofer, quote this as well. And they say that people went through great lengths to get these etrogim that come from Italy. For some reason, in Chabad, they're called Yanavers. I don't know what a Yanaver means, but I'm assuming it's a place, or the guy who sells them. I don't know who Yanaver is. But this is a famous valley, and the non-Jews there use these etrogim purely for perfume purposes. They have a whole business of perfume, cosmetics that come from etrogim. And it's a very fertile valley, apparently between two mountains, whatever it is. And they've decided that more important than etrogim that come from Israel are etrogim that come from Italy, because that's where Moshe Rabbeinu got his etrogim from. My friend, it goes against everything we know of in our Torah. People have proofs that etrogim they're not indigenous in the land of Israel, so the etrogim, someone had to bring them to Israel maybe in the second temple. There's all kinds of historical discussions about it. But that's irrelevant to the fact that today you have etrogim that come from Israel. Any fruit that grows in the land of Israel is holier than another fruit. And to find Jews that'll pay more money for a fruit that specifically doesn't come from Israel is for me it's a very sad thing.
But why, if there is a source in the Talmud, how do, we can trace it to something? What's the
It's not a
validity?
Talmudic source.
It is not, then?
Not that I know of. I've never heard of it. If it was, you'd be hearing about the Rambam getting his Italy's from his etrogim from Italy.
What did we do for the Shemitah year?
Okay, so there's ways how they grow, what they do with it. It's an interesting question. Someone else tried to write this. This is better to get etrogim outside of Israel this year because we have enough problems. We don't need to make more problems when we don't have them. But I'm asking you to just, as a simple fact in your life, please don't get carried away in shtick. What shtick is? Shtick is like
It's a lot of Jewish stick.
we don't need shtick. We have a religion, Baruch Hashem. This religion tells us al haaretz v'al mechiyah, the land and on the food. Al haaretz v'al mezon, everything. Al haaretz, al haaretz, al haaretz. Israel is the center of our life. And if you have an opportunity to get an etog from Israel, so of course that's a great etog, a great opportunity. That's one. By the way, the plus from getting the etogim from Israel, the ones they sell downstairs, they come from seeds of an etog that the Lubavitcher Rebbe made a bracha on.
Wow.
So here, even for the Chabanites, I can find for them a plus in using the one that came from Israel. You hear?
Wow.
Now, that's one. Please, Israel is a central part of our life. Nobody should tell us Moshe Rabbeinu was wandering through Italy and all. They have a whole story that when Avraham blessed Yitzchak, he was blessing him in Italy. That's right. The whole thing is
Yitzchak never left Israel.
Right.
the whole story. Just let's leave it where it is. Then there's the second thing. We have to talk about Sukkot. Sukkot. First off, there's a halakha that's been going around. At least 4 or 5 people have told me already. Your walls of your sukkah can come from the walls of your house. You don't have to build temporary walls for your sukkah. There's no such thing. I don't know where it comes from, but everybody's doing it. In Yerushalayim or in Bnei Brak, some people have roofs that come off of their dining room, and their dining room becomes a sukkah. They put schach on top of the roof.
Like a superdome.
Yeah, it's like a built-in thing. There are such sukkot. Nothing's wrong with it. So please don't go to great lengths to make sure that your sukkah has 4 walls that you built yourself. The walls from the house are perfect. Next thing. You are not allowed to build a sukkah out of... It's a trick question. You can build sukkah out of whatever you want.
ברזל?
The schach of your sukkah must be from a kosher source that is not used for something else. There has to be a kosher thing that's not mekabel tumah. Trees, bamboos, even 2x2s from Home Depot. In Baltimore, that's what they use as schach in the yeshiva. You know that?
No.
They-
We on Tzom Gadol, we built everything but the schach.
So once Yom Kippur, they put out these barrels of 2x2s. Any raw wood that doesn't have a purpose aside from being used for something that you designate is kosher for schach. Metal is not kosher for schach. Metal is something that's considered mekabel tumah, that receives impurity, and therefore we don't use schach metal. we have, but there has been a stringency added to this halakha by the Ashkenazim, which let's just say there's room for it, but we don't observe it. They hold that metal is not allowed to hold up the schach.
So no metal.
I mean, if you have a metal frame
wires.
sukkah or a plastic sukkah or whatever it is, you have to put wood poles in between so the schach is sitting on the wooden poles. We don't agree. There's no reason to do that. You're not, just because it's sitting on the schach doesn't mean that it is the schach. Additionally, there are some people in Bnei Brak who follow the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish held that not only can't metal hold up your schach, metal can't hold up the material which is holding up your schach. Let's explain. The Chazon Ish held you were not allowed to use nails or screws inside of your entire sukkah building. Because if your screws are holding up the walls of your sukkah and the walls are holding up the schach, then really your schach is being held up by metal. And so he invented some kind of sukkah that is built, it's like these interlocking pieces. The corners look like this.
Like the Japanese do.
Yeah, something
Japanese
similar.
buildings don't use nails. They use interlocking.
Right.
Interesting.
Pieces.
So that's a chumrah that we have no room for in our tradition, but there are people who do such a thing. Please, if you see a sukkah on metal, don't make a big deal about it. It's kosher, especially according to those of us who follow Maran, the Shulchan Aruch. No, we don't. Now, there is something Sfaradim hold of that we need to know. I said this in the davening today. Your sukkah cannot be a kite.
You can't fly.
It cannot fly away in the wind, that's one.
Or a
The
sailboat.
walls of the sukkah cannot be moving back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
You mean like with the wind? Is there a certain amount that's allowed?
So listen, Chacham Avadi says because any amount is not okay, he says you can't use cloth at all for the walls of your sukkah. But that's a very strict opinion. And in my opinion, so long as it doesn't sway, it can move in the wind. But if it doesn't sway, it's okay. Use your head as to what is considered a wall. What you would feel comfortable saying this is a wall versus this is something attached to a frame.
No, doesn't sway.
All right, and that means you could just try to hold it down more, spread it out tighter, put in some more screws. It's easy to fix that problem. Just that's the kind of sukkah you should worry about eating in.
You just add 2 more poles. And
Yeah,
just,
but we already did pretty tight.
Yeah. Okay. Next. It says, Basukot teshvu. You should live in Sukkot for how long? Shivat Yamim, for 7 days. Because we know Chutz La'aretz, 8 today, but fine, we'll get to those halachot later. What does it mean, live inside of the sukkah? Just eat and sleep?
Sleep and half eat.
Study Torah.
Do everything we usually do at home.
Oh,
except
very
for
nice.
most eating.
There are 4 categories here. The first category, things you must do in the sukkah. Yeah? Things you can do in the sukkah. Things you... What did I tell you?
Things you
Must do,
must do in the
can do.
sukkah, can do.
Things that are... Let's start again. Things that you must do in the sukkah. Things that are mitzvah to do in the sukkah. Things that you can do in the sukkah. And things that you are absolutely not allowed to do in the sukkah. Let's start from the top. What kind of things do you have to do in the sukkah?
Eat and sleep.
sleep.
Eat and sleep. But why? Why?
But anything's mezonot, right?
Well, let's not get to the details. Why? Why eating and sleeping?
Because that's the main thing.
Living.
That's living.
A shelter.
That's the main thing you use your home for. What about things that you do only inside of your house?
Bathing.
Sleeping.
I'm not going to bathe inside the sukkah.
Lounging around.
Lounging around, using your laptop for good things, hopefully. What else?
We'll put a hot tub in your sukkah.
You cook in your house.
You can't cook in the sukkah.
Everything that you would dafka do inside of your house, you have to do inside of the sukkah, period. The second category, things that are mitzvah to do, but you don't have to do them. For example, eating, this is where Zev comes in. Mezonot, or whatever it is that we're going to get into these halachot in detail in a second. Let's say a glass of water. You don't have to drink water inside of the sukkah, right? You don't have to drink water inside of the sukkah.
Yeah.
But can you drink water inside the sukkah?
Of course.
Do you have to get out, I don't know, and run to the sukkah to drink water if you want to drink your water bottle?
No. But
No. If you do it, is that a good thing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I mean, the more you can do inside of the sukkah, do. Just because, especially if you're specifically eating things that are not mizonot or hamotzi, so you can eat them inside of your house, that's considered a bizayon, an embarrassment to the sukkah. Yeah, so you have to make sure the things you can do inside, you do on the side of the sukkah. Mitzvah. Then there's a category of things that you can do inside of the sukkah, such as reading a book, using your laptop, just sitting down with friends and talking to them for a few minutes. Do that. All these things you can do inside of the sukkah, but you don't have to. Things that you normally wouldn't do only at home, such as going to shul. You don't have to daven inside of your sukkah if you missed minyan, because anyways you don't daven inside of your house. You're supposed to daven in the Knesset. And therefore, you can daven inside of your sukkah, but it's better to daven in the Knesset than inside of your sukkah.
אם כבר פספסת תפילה, אז מה עדיף בבית או בסוכה?
Either or. Either or.
Fit your alarm clock.
Now, on top of that, there's one last category of things you are not allowed to do inside of the sukkah.
Kosher class.
Like what?
Bodily functions.
Okay, going to the bathroom. Things that are degrading to the sukkah. This includes changing a baby's diaper. You're not allowed to change a baby's diaper inside of the sukkah. What else? You mentioned a few things people do inside of their house, but you're not allowed to do them in the sukkah. Cooking. You're not allowed to cook inside of your sukkah. Because cooking is considered something that's not a respectful thing to do.
Marital relations.
Marital relations is a big machlok in a poskim. Suffice it to say that the Kabbalists hold that if there was a way to do so in sniut as if it was inside of your own house, there's actually a big mitzvah on that. But because that's almost impossible, it could be a big avera, and therefore a person shouldn't play with fire.
So you're not allowed to do that.
Or someone can come in, or the lights.
Right, whatever, or neighbors,
Weird
or what you
shadows
want to
and-
make. Right, yeah, and the person wants to make sure that
Why
they're
can't
incentive.
I know it's hard to cook in a sukkah, but why is it disrespectful?
It smells, you spill things, it's dirty. It's just not the kind of thing that's respectful to do inside of it. And we believe that Shekhinah is inside of the sukkah the whole time. You know those restaurants where they cook in front of your face? In Judaism, we consider that degrading. Cook in the kitchen. Come and serve me the food. Don't cook in front of my face. It's not the way. It's an interesting thing. Now,
Fire hazard.
for example, if you want to make a barbecue on Chag, and you have a way to do that halachically, and I'm not going to get into those details right now, You have a way the kosher that the fire turns on and off on it, whatever it is that you do. You cannot do that inside of your sukkah. Don't think it's an extra mitzvah to barbecue inside your sukkah. Are you able to put a garbage can inside of your sukkah?
We move our
If-
garbage bins away from the sukkah because it's a
So-
reich ra.
Right, so I'll tell you that there are two kinds of garbage bins. Like your big garbage bin for your outside, garbage bins that you leave there to store stuff in and all the time, or garbage bins that you put out during the meal so that the table doesn't get dirty. Yep, the latter is okay. If you're doing it to keep the table clean and right after you finish you're taking it out of the sukkah, I would say that that's okay. There's something, a halakha, that I see most ladies don't know. A pot or a pan that you cooked in, you're not allowed to bring to the sukkah. Unless it's a special dish that's used for serving. But let's say someone made something in an aluminum foil pan, 9x13 tin pan, and they're going to throw that away as soon as you're not allowed to bring that to the sukkah. So you have to put it on a nice plate and bring it out on a nice plate. Dirty dishes. The moment dishes are dirty, we should take them out of the sukkah as soon as possible. These are all done as a hidur mitzvah to give honor to the sukkah. And here comes the most important thing. What is the most important thing to do inside your sukkah? I said it today in the morning. To sleep. To sleep. Not to sleep in the class, to sleep in the sukkah. The most important thing to do in the sukkah is to sleep in the sukkah. Let's take it from the top. The Torah says, "B'sukkot teshvu shivat yamim." You should live in the sukkot for 7 days. Teshvu ke'en taduru. You should live there the way you live in your home. Just like you eat in your home, you sleep in your home. You do all those things inside of the sukkah. Are you allowed to drink outside of the sukkah? Are you allowed to eat certain foods outside of the sukkah? Okay. You're allowed to do a lot of things in the food or drinking department out of the sukkah. Are you allowed, if you're in your office, to put your head down for 5 minutes on the table?
Your answer is
Yeah, at work.
Of course you can.
Because you're sleeping, you mean?
Because you're tired.
Depends if you're working.
According to
for somebody.
halakha, you are not allowed to put your head down at all outside of the sukkah. If you see a person fall asleep in shul, it's the one time a year you have a mitzvah to wake people up. And don't become so strict about this mitzvah, please. There are enough mitzvahs we have to keep first. But if you see somebody, you have to tell them, you're not allowed to sleep. If you want to sleep, go to the sukkah. You're not allowed to sleep even for a few seconds outside of the sukkah. In English, we're having a class in English. It's nicer to speak in English.
Is it preferable to go out to the sukkah instead of staying down?
If you're going to be falling asleep, right?
Yeah.
That's like, it's a good question.
Yeah.
It's like you're between a rock and a hard place. What's better?
Should you respect the davening more or the sukkah?
It's better to be awake than to daven. That's the right answer.
Stand
Yeah,
up.
But for health reasons, you
The
can.
sukkah's too holy a place to sleep in.
right.
Well, they do that.
How many of us sleep in our sukkah here?
When I was in Denver, everybody did.
Somehow in San Diego, it's like nobody even heard of the mitzvah to sleep in a sukkah.
In Alaska they do, here we don't, huh? It's crazy.
In the East Coast, where it snows on them in the sukkah, they sleep in the
They
sukkah.
sleep.
Sure.
When I was in Denver, that was
If you're
happening.
not going to be fully conscious, then you shouldn't be sleeping. Or-
So let's explain. There are uniquely righteous people in the world who feel uniquely righteous things that are meant to be left for uniquely righteous people and their troubles with Hashem. I'll give you an example. Once Rabbi Peretz was talking to the Rosh Kollel, Rabbi Ben Izri, of the yeshiva. Two big rabbis. And after Rabbi Peretz got frustrated because Rabbi Ben Izri didn't understand his question, he walked away. And I asked Rabbi Ben Izri, what did he ask? He said, I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? Like, Rabbi Ben Izri is a huge Talmid Chacham. He said, listen, Rabbi Peretz is not just a Talmid Chacham, he's very holy. And people who are holy get bothered by things that we don't even understand. Because they have certain sensitivities that we don't have. One of the 48 ways to acquire Torah, it says in Pirkei Avot, is Hamakir et Mekomo, someone who knows his place. Part of knowing my place is to know, I'm not a Kabbalist. I'm not the biggest tzaddik in the world. Whatever it is. And not to beat myself up for it, but to act accordingly. To act accordingly. I once was with I asked her parents, what I should tell new brides and grooms when they get married. He said, tell them no Kabbalah business. It's between each other, if you understand what I'm saying. He said they should first grow together, be natural, and then they want together to become Kabbalists, become Kabbalists. But you don't start there. You don't start there, that can lead to all kinds of problems. That's a person who's speaking from experience. So here again, the same thing. The Torah tells us you must sleep in the Sukkah. The Mishnah and the Gemara tell us you're not allowed to sleep even for 10 seconds outside of the Sukkah. You're not allowed to. The Gemara says, what if you put for yourself a guard to make sure that you don't sleep too long? The Gemara says, yeah, well, who's the guard for your guard? Who's going to make sure that your guard and make sure that he doesn't fall asleep? Maybe the guard's going to fall asleep. The Gemara says, Maskana, halachically, you're never allowed to sleep outside of the Sukkah. This is brought down the halakha in the Rambam, in the Rosh, in the Ramban, in the Ritva, in the Rashban. Any Rishon you can mention, Rashi, Tosfot, every single person. There's not one exception to this rule. The Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah, the Mishnah Berurah, you name a rabbi, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the Elkut Yosef, the Ben Ish Chai, whoever you want to mention, everyone says you must sleep in the Sukkah. There's only one kind of person who doesn't have to sleep in the Sukkah.
Sick person?
Close, there's a broader definition.
Or who can't sleep well.
What?
Someone who's dangerous.
No, you're closer. What is it? Woman, because they're very nice. Woman, because they're not obligated in the Sukkah. It's called mitzta'er. Somebody who suffers because they're in the Sukkah. For example, if it's 20 degrees outside and the person's just not able to handle this weather, he's allowed to go inside. He's allowed to go inside. Because the Sukkah is going to cause him discomfort, and you don't have a mitzvah to be in discomfort. You have a mitzvah to be in the Sukkah, but not in an uncomfortable. Now, the question of how uncomfortable is uncomfortable. This is a very vague definition. Let's say, it's better to be strict in these departments. You're talking about a Torah mitzvah. You're not talking here about a rabbinic mitzvah. It's not a minhag. It's not a chumrah. This is a mitzvah from the Torah. Mitzvah from the Torah. So let's tell you like this. Listen, some people say like a man and his wife have to sleep in the sukkah if they have a way to do so modestly. What about the wife doesn't want to? So the Shulchan says she can go inside. What about the husband who's feeling bad that his wife isn't with him? So it's a question. The poskim, is that enough of a reason to go inside? Is that even enough tzar? So you have to understand a lot of tzar you're talking about for a person to go inside. Now what if a person didn't build their sukkah properly? Like they made it in a way that's too hot for them or something like that. That's probably...
But it's still kosher.
It's kosher, but they can't cop out so easily about, the sukkah's not comfortable. Well, you chose to make it not comfortable. It's not the sukkah's problem.
What about the fire escape sukkahs like in New York?
Those are dangerous.
They're
not.
Where you get like the sun beats down. You're the guy that's sitting there with the full sun on, and your neighbors are in the shade.
By the way, just talking about schach, there is no custom to see the stars through the schach. It's a joke that they told people in the school, and somehow it became a halacha. There's no mitzvah to see the stars through the schach. The only mitzvah is that your schach shouldn't be so thick that when it rains, the rain doesn't go through. That's when the schach gets too thick. So someone must have said, so you should at least see the stars in between. Because it's easier to teach kids than, the rain will drip through, because maybe they're in California and the kids don't know what rain looks like. I don't know what the reason was. But that's not brought down in any halachic work.
Isn't there something about the amount of space between how much is open, how much is closed?
Right, it has to be the majority of shade in the sukkah, not sun. It's a good point. Yeah.
So they use bamboo mats now often instead of stock.
Absolutely fine.
But apparently there's some kind of thing now I read about where they have gutters for rain. You see that?
Yeah.
China is included. They cut the bamboo in half.
I read about
like Gilligan's.
it, and shook my head, and I
The
said,
prices,
what?
Oh, I saw that. What they do is they take another channel from the bamboo and bring that channel into your house, so the water comes in to your water filter, and then you have a drink like Gilligan's Island.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, part of the sukkah experience is to experience the sukkah, but I guess. We don't understand. In the East Coast, my wife tells me that her family, they built Sukkot, also in Baltimore. They built Sukkot. They don't have the luxury to put up a canvas or tarp or things like that. They have to actually put up walls.
Wood.
They put up wood planks.
Yeah.
So I saw someone do that here in San Diego, and I was once at their Sukkot, and I almost died from heat in their Sukkot. Because it's like a sauna experience over there.
Insulated.
What?
I have wood, but it doesn't get hot for some.
Wood planks?
It's plywood with beams.
So maybe your Sukkah isn't in the sun. Could it be?
It's on the south side of the house. It's
Really?
really
Interesting.
Windows?
but it's big.
Oh, maybe there's good
And there's a
ventilation
nice-
in there.
Yeah, it's good
Ah,
ventilation.
okay. I leave it up to Zev to put ventilation.
The wood ladder.
It's okay. It's okay for a Sukkah. Yeah. And
They're
not for
saying though,
schach.
if it has like there's nails that hold on in lattice or like a little metal wire that holds the
For
bamboo
the wall.
together.
Oh, for the bamboo, it's not okay. If you want bamboo mats, they have to be bamboo mats that have two rules. They can't have anything artificial in them, and they can't, even if they're all natural, they cannot already be designated for a purpose aside from shade. Meaning if they're made to
The Japanese floor mats.
right, the Japanese
Tatamis.
floor mats are not okay because they're used for flooring, and once they're designated for a purpose, that's considered mikabel tuma.
Interesting.
So you can't improvise or anything.
I used to get like old, like bamboo, I don't know if it's bamboo window shades until those wore out, and then I
Okay.
put the proper ones.
No, Baruch Hashem, so I have proper ones, so we don't have to answer the question. So, when it comes to sleeping, I want to share with you. I have to be as brutally honest with you as I could possibly be.
Oh, so just hold the Kollel doing this.
There was a rabbi. There was a rabbi named the Mittler Rebbe. The Mittler Rebbe was a big Lubavitcher Rebbe.
Right.
A very famous Rebbe from the Lubavitcher Rebbes. Could be the second or third, right? I don't know. Somebody know? Second, maybe? Okay. The middle of who, though? He wasn't the middle of all of them, in the middle of some of them. I'm pretty sure he was the second Lubavitcher Rebbe. Or the fourth. One of them. In any case, the Mittler Rebbe was once sleeping in a sukkah. And said, "Oh, I can't sleep in my sukkah." What happened? Here's the following thing that happened. He said that the walls of the sukkah, according to Kabbalah, are called a mekif of bina. Don't catch me on my Kabbalistic lingo, but something along the lines of, it encircles you with the Kabbalistic notion of bina. Don't ask me what that means. I'm a rabbi who deals with halacha, not Kabbalah. And he says, how can I sleep in a place that's so holy? My neshama just doesn't let me sleep. How can I leave the body and leave my almost dead body inside of such a thing? And he was so embarrassed to be sleeping in this, he just couldn't fall asleep, so he just went inside and went to sleep. And that's one of those like Hasidic Rebbe stories that should have ended as a Hasidic Rebbe story. Like, wonderful, that's a really holy rabbi. It's like a Baal Shem Tov story. Somehow in Lubavitch, though, this became a custom. That Lubavitchers don't sleep in the sukkah. Because how can you sleep in the sukkah? It's so holy. What do you mean, how can you sleep in the sukkah? It's so holy. The Rambam slept in the sukkah. Maran slept in the sukkah. The Arizal, who's the king of all the Kabbalists, slept in the sukkah. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai slept in the sukkah. So he happened to have a problem. Fine, I'm willing to say that he had a problem with the sukkah. But you, who are you? Just because you have a hat and a beard doesn't make you the Mittler Rebbe. And I hope that if you're his chassid, you would also agree with me on that.
And also, they don't have the Hadar Mitzvah view of the sukkah either, decorating them.
Oh, so we'll get there. That's a different point. I don't want to hate on everybody all at once.
No,
Then along comes the last Lubavitcher Rebbe, Alav Shalom. And he gave a famous speech. He said, really, our custom doesn't make sense. Because the Mittler Rebbe was in such agony that he was sleeping in a sukkah, so he was exempt from sleeping in the sukkah. But what about us? We don't have that agony, so therefore we have to sleep in the sukkah. Said the Rebbe, I have a way to justify our custom. And it is, we are in so much agony that we are not in agony of sleeping in the sukkah. That's why we don't have to sleep in the sukkah.
What? Repeat that again.
We are in so much agony that we
That we
don't
have
feel
to-
agony for sleeping in the sukkah.
And therefore we don't.
We don't have to sleep in the sukkah.
That's great. great.
They're not holy enough to feel like
Now, by the way, this is Hasidic logic at its best. My wife would kill me right now if she heard me say this.
So everybody gets to sleep inside.
And therefore, not only has it become everybody sleeps inside, like we're sorry for our custom that doesn't make sense, really, but it's become like an active campaign. Don't sleep in your sukkah. It's not a good thing to sleep in your sukkah.
But I thought the Lubavitcher Rebbe said we should.
No. He comes to the conclusion you shouldn't.
But, from a...
And the custom of Chabad around the world is we don't sleep in the sukkah. Now, Zev might say, from a sociological standpoint, it could be that in Russia it was very hard to sleep in the sukkah. Are you going here with this?
No, I'm not
Oh,
going
but
to
that was a good place to
No,
go.
I'm just
if you
going
would've-
from my own, remembering my younger years that I can never sleep in the Rebbe's sukkah in Denver because the lights were so bright and on. It was like concrete, and I never slept. I just got exhausted from it. It's like,
So I have a timer in my sukkah, and our lights go out.
oh, that's good.
And we leave little, like, Hanukkah lights on in the sukkah.
That's a good idea.
So they're dim, but they're not bright.
And you have room for beds in your sukkah?
Yeah, Baruch Hashem. This year my brother's building it. We'll see how big it is. I don't know how big my sukkah is this year. But I'll tell you, this problem, it's a big problem. Because let me imagine just for a moment that I would get up as a rabbi, and I'm not purporting to be as great as the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Just forgive me, I'm not trying to compare. But I would say, Jews shouldn't eat in their sukkah. What do you mean? No, Jews should eat in their house. And I'd give some reason that it's Kabbalistically, da-da-da-da. Even though no other Kabbalist before me would have ever said such a thing. What would mainstream Orthodoxy think about me then? Forget mainstream Orthodoxy. What would Chabad think about me then?
Chabad's a world unto itself.
But it's like, how are you violating a mitzvah from the Torah? And they give me a whole speech. But how do you do this yourself? And at best, I'll say, a chassid shouldn't go against his rebbe, and he's going to have to deal with Hashem at a later point. But as a chassid, don't make it my problem that your rebbe made a mistake. I mean, we follow the way that all of the people have, all the Jews around the world slept in their sukkahs. So don't pretend like you're right. Don't pretend to be right. Just say, I'm sorry, we have a custom. We're a little bit embarrassed of this custom. We don't know really how to explain it to you. But that's not the attitude. I remember when I said last year to people here that I slept in my sukkah. You don't know what kind of complaints I got. You told people they should sleep in their sukkah?
But we should say we follow Shulchan Aruch.
Of course, we follow the Torah. The Torah says you have to sleep in the sukkah. I mean, this is not like a custom that we're saying. This is not a custom.
Right.
There's no Ashkenazi precedent to this. There's no Kabbalistic precedent to this. There's no Hasidic precedent to this. And this is one of those times where it's clear as day, where you're allowed to say they made a mistake. It's not a wrong thing. It's not here to make someone look bad. But you have to say this is a mistake.
Just need to move in.
Now this idea of not decorating the sukkah. The idea of decorating the sukkah is mentioned in the Mishnah and it is mentioned in the Talmud. As a mitzvah, to decorate the sukkah. But, why doesn't Chabad decorate sukkahs? Do you know?
Because they think it's decorated with Hashem.
They claim the sukkah is so beautiful you don't need to decorate a sukkah. If you would know how beautiful a sukkah really is, you wouldn't need to decorate it. Now that's a cute Hasidic idea that I'm willing to let them get away with. It doesn't violate a halacha to have that idea.
Well, it's good to have that rationale if you don't have decoration.
Oh, see, that works for you also. But that's not a custom that they have that breaks Shulchan Aruch, and so I would never speak against such a custom. Though I do find it ironic when they don't decorate a sukkah, but they will put up pictures of the Lubavitcher Rebbe inside, because then you're decorating the sukkah. I decorated with pictures of Rav Peretz.
That's not decoration, that's veneration.
Okay, so you could then play semantics with a different game. Fine, I agree, but at the end of the day, that's not a bad minhag. It's just an interesting minhag that Baruch Hashem I don't have because I need my sukkah to have decorations. But I'll tell you the truth. The truth is that this custom of not sleeping in the sukkah is incorrect. There's no one on who to rely. There's not one source I can pull you out of my hat that says you don't have to sleep in the sukkah for Kabbalistic reasons or for lack of Kabbalistic reasons. And therefore, there is no heter to sleep in our house. I don't know where it comes from. Hilani Hamalka. Hilani was a queen of the Jewish people around the times of the Second Temple.
Hiloni?
Hilani. Hey Yud Lamed Nun Yud. Hilani writes. Well, the rabbis write about Hilani that she made a sukkah that had like 17 bedrooms in it. One for her, one for each of her children. Wow. It was a gigantic sukkah. But that's an interesting idea. Maybe Sukkot should have bedrooms. People should feel a little bit more comfortable in the sukkah. I know that in my house I put up a little curtain where we sleep. That way, There's the rest of the sukkah. Someone over, I guess, when they eat or drink, fine, but we're behind the curtain. The person, there's ways to do things right. We don't have to be so quick to say, oh, that kafto, my wife was, maybe your wife would like to go to sukkah. Maybe she's never done it before. Maybe that's what your wife needs to be jump-started into feeling a little bit more Jewish. Maybe your kids, you never take them camping. Just take your kids camping in the sukkah for once in your life. Take them, say, we're going to go on a week trip. We're sleeping outside. And then they'll say that at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm scared, I want to go outside, right? I hear wild monsters. Then they'll never ask you to take them camping. Because if you can't do 2 hours in the backyard, then you can't do... Maybe the one exception.
I think Mount Whitney would be more interested in staying in the sukkah than adults.
It depends on the kid. Listen, today I even advertised that in my sukkah I have Wi-Fi. We have a sukkah with wireless internet.
What about telecommunications?
You have your cell phone.
Got that too.
Yeah, we're covered.
Got
There's no reason. What's keeping you inside? Laziness or some kind of custom that's not real.
You have to have the equipment to set up a bed properly.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
It's not easy to do.
I have cots. We sleep on cots or folding beds.
Hammocks.
A hammock is
Walmart.
a great idea, actually. But the problem is
Target, I
using
think
the
so
walls.
also.
I don't think you're allowed to use the walls of a sukkah for a hammock, are you?
Interesting question. Interesting question.
Find someone.
Okay, so skip the hammock.
My dad's alone.
Well, you could get a floor standing hammock. Maybe.
Well, here's the thing. You could put
The hammock
the
stand.
hammock in the sukkah. Just the hammock would then become the decoration of the sukkah, which you're not allowed to take down all 8 days. Interesting.
But you're utilizing the decoration.
It's an interesting question. I don't think there's something wrong with hanging out. Maybe. I don't know.
An ugly.
I never saw this in the writings of the rabbis.
Business opportunity. Like our hammocks are guaranteed ugly. Real kind.
Just a few points I'm asking you to think about, please,
I
for
like
Sukkot.
the hot tub I did.
What else? Anything else comes up on Sukkot we need to think about?
There was another question.
You're allowed to light candles?
No. Very good question. Please don't light candles in your sukkah. Happens every year in every Jewish community. There are fires, people's sukkot burn down, people's kids get burned, people go to the hospital every single year. Check any religious news website. Motzei Sukkot, you'll find that somebody went to the hospital because of candles in the sukkah.
Wow.
And therefore the chief rabbis of Israel have asked people, please light your candles inside. Please don't bring them to the
Save
sukkah.
yourself.
It's a danger. People don't think about these things. It's important. I don't know what else. It's a good thing for bringing it up. Don't light your candles inside of the sukkah.
Shmini Atzeret using the sukkah.
Oh, wait, before we finish, what about the shaking of the lulav? Why shake? Why not
Don't shake. Who said to shake?
No, I mean, now, where did we get this idea of shaking the...
It seems like most Jewish traditions come from nursery rhymes that they teach them in preschool.
Wait, I thought the word always.
Shake your lulav.
When the
shake.
Torah, when it says l'naneh lulav, our rabbis are very clear. L'naneh means like this. I'll show you. Can I use your pen? This is your lulav. There's no mitzvah to go like that. There's not a mitzvah. All you're going to do is lose the leaves from your hadassim, and then your lulav's not going to be kosher anymore. It's the only thing that's going to happen to you. Okay? What you do is you take a lulav. A lulav is a very holy thing. You don't like shake it around. What kind of thing is this? You take a lulav and you go 1, 2, 3. That's called an aneh lulav. If you see a Talmid Chacham shake the lulav, that's how they do their lulav. It's from your heart, back to your heart. From your heart, back to your heart. From your heart, back 3 times in every direction. No shaking. No. People ask me to borrow my lulav. So you're going to shake it? Of course I'm going to shake it, so you can't use it. But I'm asking you to shake it. They don't understand, like they want to borrow it to do a mitzvah, and they call it shake the lulav. I don't say you cannot shake the lulav. You can make a brach on the lulav. But do not shake the lulav. Sfaradim, you have a problem with the lulav. What's your problem with the lulav? Tell me.
It has to be rigid.
No, what's your problem? What does your wife do? Do ladies have to take a lulav at all?
No.
Do they have to?
No.
No, but they can.
I agree they can. When a lady does a mitzvah that she's not obligated to do, does she make a blessing?
Those are it's a blessing in vain.
You
Do
tell
you understand the question? How can a lady say, Asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, you sanctified us in your commandments and commanded me to shake lulav and etot? You're not commanded to shake, so don't lie. Shake it, but don't. You weren't commanded. Oh, so you chose to obligate yourself. That's not a commandment.
So they do without saying the bracha?
It seems like according to Maran, if a lady wants to shake love and etrog, she's allowed to, without a bracha. Not even a shechianu, because the shechianu is directly connected to the bracha on the mitzvah. Rabbeinu Tam, who is one of the Balei Tosfot, giant of Ashkenaz, disagrees. His logic is that when a lady says Asher Kiddishanu B'Tzvav Tzivanu, she's not referring to herself, but rather to the collective Jewish people. The Jewish people are commanded to take a lulav and a etrog. And therefore he allows ladies to make brachot on mitzvot that they're not obligated in. This is the basis for ladies making a bracha on the sukkah, a bracha on lulav and etrog, a bracha on all kinds of things that they're not commanded to do, based on Rabbeinu Tam. But he's a lone opinion.
Wouldn't it just suffice to say amen to someone else's bracha in that case?
Right, but you know how feminism works.
I understand, but I'm just trying to get to the heart of this thing. It's
Yeah, she could say amen to someone else's bracha.
because isn't it the mitzvah the responsibility of an individual? I mean, there are mitzvot that are community obligations.
Not this one?
Yeah.
It seems like logically Maran is correct. Here's the problem. The Chidah writes, Rabbi Chaim Yosef David says, even though the halacha is like Maran, we find already in Morocco that ladies 350 years ago, ladies are making brachot on the lulav and nobody tells them not to. How Peretz seems to have said in a class last week, I heard this from Levi Moro, I don't know, I didn't hear it from Rav Peretz, so I don't want to tell you what Rav Peretz actually said. Rav Peretz has a big shita, a big approach to Judaism, and that is, people are so fast running away from Judaism, that if you have a lady who's interested in Judaism, let her. Let her do things. Let her shake 11 etrog. Let her make the bracha. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? So according to Rabbeinu Tam, she's okay. According to Maran, she's going to go to Gehenna. But she wants to come close to Hashem. So I say, listen, if someone were to ask me, and I understand her to be a Talmidah Chama, someone who's learning, I'll probably tell her not to make the bracha. But there are enough sources who say that ladies can make the bracha, that if I'm going to say, don't make the bracha, the ladies say, oh, so it's better not to shake 11 etrog. She got this close. So why turn her away just because we Sfaradim are particular in something?
So in your own family,
I have people who should make a bracha and people who don't. My wife, Baruch Hashem, doesn't make a bracha. But she shakes.
So,
She doesn't shake.
Just to point out, you use the word shake all the time.
Right.
And then you told us that you shouldn't shake. So
Right.
you're using another word.
What word can I use?
I don't know.
Jiggle, wiggle, wave.
when the Denver
Stretch out.
Rebbe used to do like a few
I would
hours
love a better term.
of constant shaking of the lulav, all the directions for several hours. That was his
Interesting.
minhag.
Okay.
I would like one speaker was like that for a very long time.
Again, different
Blew his
tzaddikim,
mind
different
blowing.
tzaddikim in
He
their
didn't come to
ways.
shul the whole week. He just stayed in the sukkah doing that.
You know, Rav the Vilna Gaon, the Vilna Gaon, all the Vilna Gaon, all 7 days of Chag. The Vilna Gaon, all 7 days of Chag. He walked around with a little etrog in his hands. He would not put it down. He said, "I have 7 days. Okay, Shabbat. I can put it down. I have all 7 days. Like, how can I put it down? How can I put it down?" Again, these tzaddikim lived in different places. We are not there yet. Let's first shake it properly once in the morning. Let's. You know what I'm saying. Let's linaneh at lulav properly every morning before we get there. What else? We have another halakha. Another halakha. One more I wanted to tell you.
Shmini Atzeret, Zev Shmini Atzeret.
Zev Shmini before Shmini Atzeret. Simchat Torah, guys. Please don't get drunk.
So is
No mitzvah.
there a premium on saying the bracha over the lulav etrog in your sukkah as opposed
Yes,
to doing
yes.
it during the
Seems like according to the Mekubalim, there's an idea to do it in the sukkah before you go to shul. Let's say.
better to lug it home and bring it back than it is to keep it in shul.
Or listen in the siddur. And it seems like on a pshat of the halakha, you could do it at shul also. Just leave it at shul and take it at shul. The custom was in the Beit HaMikdash that they only shook it in the Beit HaMikdash, not at home. They should leave it at the Beit HaMikdash and come in the morning and do it over there.
Maybe you're going to cover this next week, but we don't eat in the sukkah Simchat Torah, but we do for Shmini Atzeret. And what's the difference? Like in Israel, what happens as opposed to Chutz
You eat in the
La'aretz?
sukkah and for Shemini Atzeret.
We eat in the sukkah on the last day of Chag.
Which is Simchat Torah.
sukkah and just walk
Simchat
around.
Torah. But we don't eat in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeret.
Really?
Right? Is that am I saying correctly?
What?
Shmini Atzeret's first, Simchat Torah is Yom Shmona,
Maybe not.
The night of Simchat Torah,
is the 8th night.
Still,
which day? We have Wednesday night, Thursday.
night, and then Shabbat.
Wednesday night, Thursday, we eat in the sukkah.
Yeah.
It's saying Thursday, right, but Thursday night
Thursday night and Friday,
is Simchat Torah.
I don't think anybody eats in the sukkah.
No.
Yeah, no. The minute you say goodbye.
History.
And at Dafka, the people who would eat in the sukkah then, for example, here there's a problem in this show every year. They go outside and they eat the lunch in the
We talked
sukkah.
about that, yeah. You
We
have
have
to
a
puzzle the
prohibition of the
sukkah.
Torah. You can't puzzle the
Right,
sukkah.
during the
They do it.
Chag,
They
yeah.
puzzle the sukkah. It's not allowed to puzzle the sukkah on Chag.
On
So
the
let me
Chag,
tell
it's
you.
not. No, you're right.
So let me tell you how this works.
Not even a goy can do that.
If I take 11 o'clock this Wednesday morning, not Thursday morning, am I violating the biblical prohibition of do not add?
It's not a mitzvah to wait. All that.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a mitzvah.
Well, if you say the
You're
bracha, or if
adding.
you just happen to like be, I mean, you're for the process of decorating
But
it.
before-
No, you're trying to do the
You're
mitzvah.
trying to do the same.
You want to do one extra day,
mobilizing it the way
But the
that
day
you-
before?
the day before, or the day right after Chag.
Air
Yeah, you're adding to it.
What about 2 days after the holiday?
It's not Israel.
Why is it
Status
no longer
changes.
adding?
Its status changes. It's no longer
Now
a
you're just
holy
practicing
item.
No, now it's just all.
Tell me a better answer.
We were told,
Because before you were
What?
trying to maybe add to the dates, because we have a certain amount of days, and when you're doing it right before or right after, that might add to it.
That's
But
easy.
Very
when you're
nice.
doing 2
Very nice.
days,
When you give
Later,
a certain
better.
amount of room between the holiday and the day, that's no longer considered a biblical prohibition of Baal Tosif. Which means if your sukkah is already up, you're allowed to eat in your sukkah tonight. But come Tuesday night, Wednesday, you're not allowed to. Because you have to keep that buffer zone where I'm not adding an extra day to my sukkah. Meaning that Shabbat, you could eat again in your sukkah if you want.
On Bereshit, yeah.
Yeah, but not Thursday night, Friday.
Not really.
Because that looks like you're adding another day to the holiday. You understand? Adding only happens when it's samuch, when it's right next to it. Not when it's two different time
Separated.
periods.
Blow the shofar in the middle of
Of Hanukkah, it's not about Tosif. I don't know why you're doing it, but it's not about Tosif. Right? This is a rule. When you say halachot, you have to find the. So what's the rule? This is the rule. The rule is additions or subtractions only apply when it's directly attached to that holiday.
so we don't eat matzah like on Erev Pesach.
Right, before
Right.
Pesach. Also, there's another reason there. It's
Yeah.
a similar idea. So, where was I going with this? You asked about Shemini Atzeret. I want to talk to you about Simchat Torah. Please, listen to me. Next week, we're going to have a class, God willing, Monday night at my house,
Oh, nice.
at our sukkah. Okay, so Monday night at our sukkah. Tuesday night, we're not going to have, because again, it's a holiday. But Monday night, I invite everybody to our sukkah. Please join us. Tuesday, yeah, in my house. Tuesday night, we're going to have the kumzas, our yearly kumzas of the Bet Knesset here, downstairs in the sukkah. Please join us for that. It's a lot of fun. We sing together. People who play musical instruments, bring them. We'll be singing songs. Next week, Tuesday night. But halakha. Simchat Torah is one of the happiest days of the Jewish calendar. We're dancing with the Torah. If you're Ashkenazi, you dance with the Torah. If you're Sephardic, you put the Torah on the bima and dance around the Torah. Whatever it is that you do. It's not a time for joking around. It's not a time for sitting down and talking. How can you sit down when the Torahs are walking around? So you're not feeling so well. It's hard to. So go out, step outside and sit down.
depends on how long they drag it out.
Even if it's for 5 hours, you still can't sit down when the Torahs are moving around. Now for Sfaradim, it could be it's better. It could be this is the reason why Sfaradim put the Torahs on the bima, because that way the Torahs are at what's it called at rest, and you can also, if you need be at rest also. But the custom we're still working on that. The custom of walking with the Sefer Torah, it's a good custom, but it comes along with it a responsibility. And that is to give the Torah proper kavod when it's walking, just like you would in the synagogue when it's walking around. And what happens today that people do kiddush and they eat and they talk and some people are singing, some people are dancing, some people are talking lashon hara, some people are flirting with the other person's wife, all kinds of things that happen here. You're not allowed to do these things. You're not allowed to do these things. People have to be very. I don't understand. Just because we're in San Diego doesn't mean we don't have a Torah here. If anything, on Simchat Torah, we have to act like we have a Torah. Getting drunk. There's not one place in the Torah where you have found someone who got drunk and it says something good about them.
Are we doing combined?
We're not sure yet. When it comes to drinking on Simchat Torah, there is no such mitzvah. There's not even such a minhag. It's not a custom anywhere.
Oh, that was all the fun.
But and that's the problem. That's the problem. The problem is, if you really celebrate the Torah, if you've really spent a year cherishing the Torah, why do you need a drink to have a good time?
Exactly.
And if you do, that says something about you. And I'll tell you, I will be willing to differentiate. I don't take even one shot. But someone who takes a shot, they like to drink, they like the flavor, whatever it is, fine, I give it to you. But to the point where you smell like alcohol, to the point where alcohol is spilled on the bima, you know what that is on the bima?
Many times.
There are Torahs on the bima, and there's alcohol spilled on the
We're trying
bima.
to de-emphasize that now.
Yeah, where there's this is a
So
problem.
much of that.
And this is not just, by the way, it's not just Chabad anymore. Today this has become young Israels and Litvish synagogues and Sephardic synagogues. I've actually never seen it by Sephardim, but I've
Well, the
heard.
young Israel's
I've
credit
heard.
in San Diego, they're dry.
Oh, so not this young Israel, but I'm saying like it's not just the Chabad thing. I'm not
Oh, yes,
bashing
I
the
got a
Chabad.
very strict letter from the Rosh Yeshiva about Simchat Torah.
Really?
Yeah, they said anybody who lives within a 2-hour walking distance, it's mandatory you come here. We don't want you going to places where...
That's a big problem.
Where you
It's
drink.
again, why does alcoholism have to have a direct link to our
Yeah,
community?
but I almost thought it's anybody within a
Well,
2-hour
they used to
driving
say,
distance.
in Ashkenazi, shikr is a goy.
That was always the same.
Yeah, but it's not true anymore.
Now Shikr is a Jew. But there used to be a famous statement in Ashkenaz. Shikr is a guy. There's a song about it. Shikr is a guy. So, Badana, soft of Al-Konishman. And it's a time of real simcha. Simcha on a holiday, you have a mitzvah this holiday to buy your wife's jewelry or clothing. Or your children,
That's what
toys.
my wife asked me tonight.
Toys or something. Whatever you can to make them happy. If it's just you, you have to buy yourself something new, something for the Chag, a new tie, a new shirt, whatever it is that would make you feel like $1 million when you come to the synagogue. If you have children, it's important. It's an important time to teach your kids that come Sukkot, they get special things.
The problem is he wants hydrochloric acid.
Okay, I don't know about that. You'll have to have a talk with
You can't wear that.
Also, no toilet bowl cleaner.
Yeah.
No, but
When we have a Chag, we have to find the depth of that Chag. Where is the Chag? Where is it coming from? And it's not coming from alcohol, just like it's not coming from silly things, just like it's based in real. Hashem says to get the full experience, eat with me in the sukkah, sleep with me in the sukkah, drink with me in the sukkah, dance with me in the sukkah, whatever it is, but make your family have an experience. This is your job. It's your job to make your family have this experience. And that B'ezrat Hashem, Hashem should give us a bracha, like the Rambam says, that someone who's happy on this Chag with all of his might, he's a true Eved Hashem, he's close to Hashem. I know the halakha I wanted to teach you. Can I tell you one last halakha before we go?
Sure, please.
When do you make the bracha l'shev b'sukkah?
I have a rishon b'kiddush. The first night.
I think last year you said every time you enter the sukkah.
Barry has a good memory. When do you eat what in the sukkah?
When you what?
When you eat what in the sukkah?
Food?
What kind of food?
So no,
We
Well,
5 possessions.
so there's no gluten-free sukkahs.
like the bread.
There are 4 opinions here.
5.
Let's do the 4 opinions.
Right.
Let's start with.
It's like the 4 sons. Simply the wise,
Okay, good to share.
Yeah,
You have the Ashkenazim.
what?
The Ashkenazim, they make a l'shev b'sukkah every time they have a mezonot, more than the size of an olive or an egg, like have a cookie or a cake or something, and hamotzi, obviously, and alcoholic beverages such as wine. That's when Ashkenazim make a l'shev b'sukkah. Again, for Ashkenazim, those are the things they're not allowed to eat outside of the sukkah. That's why they say a bracha on them. Other things, such as fruits or water or juice, those things you don't make a l'shev b'sukkah according to Ashkenazim because you don't have to have them in the sukkah. You just choose to have them in the sukkah. According to Sephardim, they agree with Ashkenazim that those are the things you have to eat in the sukkah. Perhaps with the exception of wine, many poskim of the Sephardim hold you can drink alcoholic beverages outside of the sukkah. But it's a good thing to be strict about if you can. It's not a big deal. And therefore the Sephardim say you can only make a l'shev b'sukkah if you are actually eating a meal. For example, bread, or enough mizonot to constitute a meal. Like you would, I don't know, let's say you are, tell me a mizonot, the food that people eat for food.
Crackers.
Well, like in the
cake.
Okay, oh, very nice.
Danish.
If you're eating a bunch of cookies or cakes or danishes or crack, let's say you have a lunch and your lunch is crackers and cheese with a glass of wine, right? But that's your lunch. That's what you're eating today for lunch. Or you're eating, I don't know, a big pretzel, whatever it is that you're eating. Those things you have to eat in the sukkah. And according to the Sfaradim, you would say l'shev sukkah when you eat such things. There are today's Sfaradim who are of the opinion, like the Ashkenazim, to make a bracha, everything mizonot, everything hamotzi. Okay, that exists. And there's the minhag of the Yemenites. The minhag of the Yemenites is not a Yemenite custom. It's actually the Rambam's custom. Let me read this to you, please. The Rambam writes in the Laws of Sukkot Doron, thanks for bringing me this book. Kol zman, every time, sheikanes l'shev b'sukkah, when a person comes to sit in the sukkah, kol shiva, every one of the 7 days, mevarech, you make a blessing, kodem sheyeshev. Before he sits down. Why before?
Because he said,
You're already sitting then.
he said the
but
bracha
the
before
blessing
you.
comes before the action.
Very nice. And the Rambam here holds the action isn't eating, the action is being in the sukkah. So what's being in the sukkah? Sitting. You should know that some understand in the Rambam that you actually have to make the bracha outside of the sukkah right before you walk into the sukkah. Some go that far. I'm willing to say it's not that far. Just in the sukkah before you actually take your seat in the sukkah.
So what happens if you just go in to stand and walk out?
Nothing.
It's interesting. It's an interesting question.
If you use the sukkah as a shortcut.
It seems to be just sitting. But you're actually being in the sukkah.
Yeah,
If
like-
you're going to...
Like in a kiddush, you don't have seats and...
It could be that in that situation the Rambam would say you make a l'shem b'sukkah. But the Rambam says that every single time you go inside you make a l'shem b'sukkah. Then he says, Nimtza mekadesh me'omed, so it turns out you do kiddush standing up, umvarech l'shem b'sukkah, and then you say l'shem b'sukkah, v'yoshev, and then you sit down, v'achar kach mevarech al hazman, and then you make l'shechianu. V'kazeh haya minhag rabotai, you should know this is the custom of my rabbis. Very rarely do you see the Rambam writes to them. Ve'rabbanei Sfarad, and all the rabbis of the Sephardic countries, or Spain, practically, l'kadesh ma'omed, to do kiddush standing up in the sukkah, that way they could say the Shem b'sukkah, and then sit down.
On Shabbat, they would not sit down until they would finish.
Probably. But again, this is one of those things that if you know, a person has to be, according to the Rambam and according to therefore the Yemenites, every time you go sleep in the sukkah, you go drink in the sukkah, you go learn in the sukkah, you make a l'shem b'sukkah. Unless, of course, not everything you do. Like if you're drinking a glass of water, don't make a l'shem b'sukkah, and then when you open up your book, l'shem b'sukkah, you make it once every time you come into the sukkah, and when you leave for a significant amount of time, then it's over. Then you come back again next time.
What about the fruits of Israel? Pomegranates.
It's an interesting question. It's a machlokah poskim over here. Now, there's one last point. You are allowed to eat, let's say, fruits and vegetables outside of the sukkah.
You're allowed to
Eat fruits and vegetables outside of the sukkah, or drink water or liquids outside of the sukkah. That only applies so long as you do not make a hamotzi in the sukkah. But once you wash inside of the sukkah, maybe you say hamotzi inside of the sukkah, anything you eat as part of that meal, you're no longer allowed to eat inside. You can't go have a glass of water inside until you do Birkat Hamazon.
Yeah, and then you can walk out and eat vegetables.
Right, but anything you would eat during the meal, even if it's not things you would have to eat in the sukkah regularly, you're not allowed to eat them without a l'shem b'sukkah inside of the sukkah. Yes, I suggest by the way, anyone who wants, nothing's going to happen to you if you follow the halakha of the Rambam, even though the Shulchan Aruch doesn't agree. Yes.
2 questions. One, if there's like the 72 minutes after if you forget to bench, then after that then it doesn't count. So can you eat, can you drink a glass of water inside?
If you forgot a bench,
Yeah.
you shouldn't reach that point. Don't forget the bench.
Chalila.
Chalila, she'll call me up. We don't ask worst case scenario questions. It'll do you good. That way you don't have the luxury to make it there. Yeah.
Shechianu, is it only the first night?
Shechianu, we say both nights of the holiday, if I'm not mistaken.
I have.
We say both nights of the holiday.
And what about the end? The last 2 nights too?
I don't remember the Nusach of Kiddush. We have to look at it. If we say Shechianu on the first night, then we'd say it again on the second night also.
I have a second question.
Meaning, Chutz La'aretz, the rule is, our first day and second day are identical.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, that's our halacha outside of Israel. Yeah.
So the second question is, is there a halach problem with using the sukkah as a shortcut, like to get to the backyard or back inside?
Interesting. Can
Is
you
there
use
something similar with
the
the
Bet Knesset? Definitely not. I don't think so. I don't know if it's a halacha, but I don't know all the halachot, so we'll go look it up. B'ezrat Hashem. All right, everyone have a beautiful evening. B'ezrat Hashem.
I guess tomorrow.
One more important question.
So tomorrow we're off, God willing. Tomorrow you have a mitzvah of helping your wives or your mothers or fathers.
Finish building a sukkah today.